Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today's video getting into the Week 9 matchups at the wide receiver position, helping you make any start-sit decisions you need to make for wide receivers in Week 9. Coming off smashing the BetFred Boost on Thursday night, Dameon Pierce over rushing yards, check. Texans cover the 14, check. So that's great to see. Back on the board there, plus 215 over BetFred on Thursday night. We will have another boost for the Sunday slate. But if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to let me know, subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed, comment down below. Happy to help as much as I can, answer as many comments as I can for Week 9. Let's get to the matchups, starting with Chargers, Falcons. 1 o'clock, the Chargers and Falcons. That game is in Atlanta. The matchup here, starting with the Chargers, no Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams, no Donald Parham Jr. I know to some of you that might not matter, but as a Chargers fan, I know it has an impact for their offense. Gerald Everett is the guy, the top option in my mind that you want to start this week against the Falcons. Thing is here is what we do with the Josh Palmer, DeAndre Carter, Michael Bandy situation. I think if you're in a really desperate spot, DeAndre Carter is someone you could go to, just like maybe you went to Philip Dorsett on Thursday night. But I would more be looking to Josh Palmer as a guy that is probably going to be, in my mind, I think I have him ranked as like a back-end wide receiver 3. I do think the Chargers coming off the bye might look to run the ball a bit more. They've been terrible running the ball. The Falcons rank outside the top 25. I think they're 26th in rushing DVOA. They've been okay, not great against the run, but I think with the Chargers, how banged up they are wide receiver, I think they take the bye week here. The offensive line has a chance to get a little healthier and as well find out some ways to be more successful on the ground. So I think they can do that here. So I'm not terribly high on a lot of these guys, even though the Chargers are like a very high volume passing offense. But Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett, the guys I want to play. On the other side with the Falcons, I think it's a great matchup for their running backs. We talked about it in the running back rankings video, but guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts against the Chargers defense, 22nd in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. I do think this is a good matchup for their wide receivers. It's just whether or not there's enough volume. The Chargers are favorites here, so maybe the Falcons have to go to the air a little bit more. Drake London to me is like a wide receiver 4 in this matchup. I would look more to like continue, of course, riding Kyle Pitts, but not terribly high on Drake London because I think the Falcons will be able to move the ball to the ground this week. So I'd probably try to avoid playing Drake London. All right, next up, Vikings, Commanders, a game that surprisingly does not have a high total over at BetFred. I think it's 43.5. These are two teams that are 24th and 26th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, both outside the top 20 in pass DVOA. The Vikings have not been good in coverage. The Commanders are actually becoming a little bit more serviceable, but obviously the Vikings make up for their lack of coverage ability in the pass rush. It's fantastic. So what do we do here with the Commanders, who look to be without Jahan Dotson for yet another week, but could be welcoming back Logan Thomas? I'm certainly looking to play Terry McLaurin in this spot. I think with Taylor Heineke at QB, it's changed the dynamic here. Curtis Samuel's I think he had 3 catches last week, only on 3 targets, I believe, as well. So the volume just doesn't seem to be there with Heineke at QB. So Terry McLaurin is the guy I would want to play, and Samuel would be more of a wide receiver 4 type of play. It's a good matchup. I think it's a good matchup, but he's a guy I'd play over Drake London, but I'm not terribly high on him in this matchup, even though the Vikings aren't the greatest pass defense. The other side of things with the Vikings, obviously welcoming TJ Hawkinson. Can you play TJ Hawkinson? I'd probably... There's a few guys I like better, like an Evan Ingram. If he's on the wire, I'd play over him. I wouldn't see him as like a top 6 guy quite yet. I'd more be looking to play Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson in this matchup over TJ Hawkinson. So I like both of those guys in the matchup against the Commanders here. Again, bottom 7 in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, so a good spot here. All right, Panthers, Bengals is up next, and the Bengals I was looking through the injury report. I want to pull it back up for you guys if you guys don't know about this, because I did not know about this until I looked. We're looking at Chidobe Awuzie, I believe, is now out for the season. Trey Flowers did not participate in practice. We have Eli Apple was a full participant, but Mike Hilton did not participate in practice. We've got Sam Hubbard, who did practice, but is on the injury report as well. This defense looks like it's banged up. So that makes DJ Moore a very quality play for me. I would have him as a wide receiver 2 on the week. This Bengals team is good at limiting explosive pass plays regardless. That's just kind of their scheme that they have built. But being without a lot of these talented guys could be a problem for them. So I like DJ Moore in this matchup. I think the Panthers will need to throw the ball. But the Bengals, 9th in fantasy points allowed, 7th in pass DVOA. So this is a good pass defense, but missing some of these guys, it does make DJ Moore an auto start for me in this matchup. As far as the other guys go, like the Terrace Marshall spot, I probably would lean against it just because I do think the Bengals scheme is good enough to make enough plays regardless of who's out there. On the Bengals side of things, not too much to discuss really. It's Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. You're going to play those guys week in and week out for as long as Jamar Chase is out. I think these guys are kind of matchup proof. Just because of what this Bengals offense has kind of moved to. They've really started to throw the ball a lot more lately, just kind of like they did last year. The first half, they were running the ball a ton. Now in the second half of the season, they look to be moving more towards the pass game. All right, Bills-Jets. This is a game here where we've got two teams that are very, very good against the pass. The Bengals are now, I believe, they have the second best coverage grade from PFF on the season. Where does Ahmad Gardner find himself against this Bills offense? I think it would only make sense that he would be shadowing Stephon Diggs. So if in that case, this is a challenge here for Gabe Davis to really step up. And I think regardless, you're not going to be sitting Stephon Diggs. He's still going to see volume. He's still going to see looks as good as Ahmad Gardner is. But I think Gabe Davis is definitely someone you want to play here, regardless of the fact that, low total divisional matchup, the Jets offense, the Bills could really run away with this game. But I think Gabe Davis is someone you do want to play, seeing as he probably sees that CB2 from the Jets. As far as an Isaiah McKenzie goes, where I'm really off of him for the time being. I need to see like a significant change in terms of production after the catch and volume, because otherwise he just isn't playing well enough for me to be excited to play him in this matchup. On the other side with the Jets, looks like Corey Davis will be out yet again. That makes Garrett Wilson, in my mind, a guy that also is matchup proof because he's the number one option in this offense. And without Elijah Moore, I think he played 10 snaps and had one target. I don't know what that deal is, if that's going to change. I don't expect it to. He was outsnapped by I can't remember what the guy's name was off the top of my head, like a Jeff something, but he was outsnapped by Denzel Mims as well. So I don't see anything changing there. So if he's working with him, Braxton Berrios, and Denzel Mims, Garrett Wilson is going to be a target hog. And Garrett Wilson, this is the reason why I said he was going to be a league winner, is because of how this offense is working and how these other options are that are available. And without Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson is a guy I want to keep playing. He's a wide receiver, back-end wide receiver 2 in a bad matchup. In good matchups, he's on the precipice of being a wide receiver 1 in my mind. So Garrett Wilson is still someone I want to play against the Bills, who are very, very good against the pass. But I think he could still survive the matchup, even with that poor offensive line. Colts, Patriots. Game here where I believe the Patriots are 5.5-point favorites. Mac Jones has not looked good since returning from injury. These are two teams that are top 10 in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. So the Colts in particular are second in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. So starting on the Patriots side, do you want to play a Jacoby Myers here against the Colts? I would certainly look to avoid that. I think this is a matchup that, Jonathan Taylor's status is up in the air. It looks like he still wasn't practicing, so this could be Deion Jackson as the back for the Colts, but I still think that they will lean on the run game, even if Deion Jackson is the lead back. And we could see some Zach Moss as well in this game, who was a healthy and active for the Bills before this trade. So it'll be interesting to see how they break up the snaps there if Jonathan Taylor is out. Michael Pittman is like a wide receiver 3 on the week for me, is where I see him. It's just in a matchup here against a pretty good Patriots pass defense. Can Sam Ehlinger do enough for this offense? I'm definitely looking to sit Alec Pierce and sit Paris Campbell. Pittman would be like my flex look in a lot of my leagues. I'm looking at Garrett Wilson and Michael Pittman in one of my leagues, and I'm going to start Garrett Wilson. I think Pittman's realistically going for 45, 50 yards and missing a score and giving me 9 points. Where Garrett Wilson, I think, can give me 10 points as the floor without issue. Where Pittman's floor could really bottom out here. Just not a good matchup in the Colts offense. Passing offense just hasn't looked good. Didn't look good last week with Ehlinger at QB against the Commanders, who are a really good matchup. So Raiders, Jaguars. So the Raiders, Darren Waller has been logging limited practices. We got Matt Collins, who I think will be playing. If both those guys are available, I mean, this is a pretty good matchup. The Jags 20th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, so an advantageous matchup. So can the Raiders take advantage of it? I think Devontae Adams will bounce back with a big week. Otherwise, Hunter Renfrow, just not seeing anything volume-wise that makes me want to play him. And if Darren Waller's out, Foster Moreau is someone you definitely want to go to on the wire against the Jags. Jaguars side of things, Evan Ingram is someone I'm definitely playing. The Raiders are one of the worst against fantasy tight ends. They're 31st in pass DVOA, which is second last in the league. Their coverage grade, 57.1 from PFF. Not a very talented secondary. I'm definitely going to play Evan Ingram, play Christian Kirk. And then, if you're in a tough spot, I think I would probably play Zay Jones over, a DeAndre Carter, for example, even over a Drake London. I think this is a good matchup for the Jags at home. A game they could certainly win, and I think Trevor Lawrence can definitely bounce back. I think the Raiders are dead last in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, so good matchup for Trevor Lawrence. Dolphins-Bears. A matchup here for the Bears where I think they're going to run into some problems. The Dolphins are very, very good at stopping the run, so can Justin Fields move the ball enough through the air? The Dolphins have a really good pass rush grade, 74.7 PFF pass rush grade, while the Bears have been actually okay in pass pro, but man, I don't really want to trust Justin Fields under pressure, so I'm not looking to play a Chase Claypool, a Darnell Mooney, a Cole Kmet on that side of things. And then the Dolphins are really not really much of a discussion point when it comes to start sit every week. We're playing Jalen Waddle, we're playing Tyreek Hill, regardless of the matchup. Packers-Lions. Talked about this game a fair bit in our running back rankings video. I do think both of these running backs are going to have a very big week for the Packers, both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. It's Friday morning, right? I got to help you guys out in terms of who to play in this game from the perspective of the Lions are 28th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, but I don't know where they're going to be at health-wise. So let's just lay out potential scenarios. So Allen Lazard, limited practices. Christian Watson, limited practices. Both guys are out. Romeo Doubs, to me, would be a must-start type of guy against the Lions. If both Allen Lazard and Romeo Doubs are available and Christian Watson is out, I would lean towards I'd play both of those guys, but I'd see them more as wide receiver threes, like wide receiver 30-ish range. So I think they're still in a good matchup, but I do think that the Packers will lean on the ground game here and kind of get out of town with this one and win this one with ease, and not need to push the ball downfield, chase big plays. But if both of those guys are available, that's how I see it. But if Romeo Doubs is the only guy there and Christian Watson and Lazard are out, definitely want to play Romeo Doubs. On the Lions side of things, we're kind of looking at Josh Reynolds, I believe, is going to be out in this one. So Amon-Ra is one of the highest floors in the NFL, a player you're going to start even in a tough matchup. The Packers 9th in pass DVOA, but otherwise not really looking at any other options in this passing offense at the moment. It'd be who am I thinking of here? There's one other player that I'm blanking on that you could consider, but not in this matchup. Before we get to these last few games, let's get to the BetFred Boost. So I'm going with a 3-way parlay here that's going to be boosted over at BetFred. So make sure the BetFred Boost section, look for OwnersBox there. You'll be able to find this play. I'm on A.J. Dillon over 38.5 rushing yards. Love the matchup against the Lions, who are brutal against the run this season. And then I'm going with the Rams, which we'll get to in a few games here. I love the Rams +3. The Bucs have a non-existent pass rush, and the biggest problem for the Rams has been that offensive line and not having enough time to be able to move the ball on offense. They've been terrible on offense, and it's because of that offensive line. But now the Bucs, who are without Shaq Barrett for the rest of the season, just have no pass rush to speak of. I think the Rams can move the ball on offense. And the Bucs offensive line has struggled a ton too. They can't run the ball. They go against this Rams defense led by Aaron Donald. Their front is going to stuff the run, get after Tom Brady, and I think they make life very difficult. I think the Bucs will lose at home yet again this week. And then the last one, Austin Eckler over 55.5 rush yards. We talked about this earlier. I do think that the Chargers coming out of the bye will be very much focused, or we're very much focused over the last 2 weeks of figuring out the run game. And if Corey Linsley is healthy, and closer to 100%. He carries that rushing attack. I think this entire offensive line gets a chance to get a little healthier. Trey Pipkins was nursing an MCL injury as well. I think they'll focus on the run game with all the wide receiver absences. I think Eckler, against like a 26th ranked rush DVOA team from the Falcons, will be able to move the ball on the ground. So three-way parlay, Eckler over 55.5 receiving yards. We have A.J. Dillon over Eckler over 55.5 rushing yards. A.J. Dillon over 38.5 rushing yards as well. And then we've got the Rams +3. So that's boosted over at BetFred. Bet 50, get 250 at BetFred if you're in any of their legal states. Ohio coming soon as well. That link down below in the description, so make sure you go check that out. All right, Seahawks Cardinals. Again, mentioned that the Seahawks are 2-point favorites in this game, or 2-point underdogs in this game at the Cardinals. The Cardinals have struggled immensely at home, but a good matchup, I think, for both of these teams to be able to move the ball through the air. These two teams actually aren't bad in terms of fantasy points. The Seahawks are third in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, but they've been getting killed by tight ends, so I think that kind of doesn't really, it doesn't equal what this secondary is actually made of in terms of ability. We've got the Seahawks secondary with a 59.9 coverage grade, the Cardinals with a 49.5. I think the Cardinals are dead last, maybe second last in coverage grade. So I think it's still a good matchup for both passing offenses. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are guys I'm certainly going to play. The big question, I think, for a lot of people is like, where would you place Rondale Moore in this matchup? From the slot, with the Zach Ertz and DeAndre Hopkins volume, I'm going to lean against playing Rondale Moore as much as I think this is a good matchup. There has to be a little bit of something to the Seahawks in terms of like they're 14th in pass DVOA. So they have been pretty good against the pass. And the Cardinals have struggled early on and at home. So I'm going to lean against playing Rondale Moore. I've got him more of like a wide receiver 5 on the week, back end wide receiver 4. So Zach Ertz, I think, will be a beneficiary of a big week. And then, of course, DeAndre Hopkins. 3 more games left. Rams Bucks. Talked about how I think this game will go, how that impacts fantasy relevant players. Not too much in terms of wide receiver. Like Cooper Kupp is someone I want to play. The question is, can you play? If Allen Robinson's on your wire, I'd play him over a DeAndre Carter, a Drake London, who are some other guys that we've talked about, like a Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, for example. So if he's available, I think he might be a good spot start because I do think the Bucs look like they're getting healthier. There looks like there's a lot of guys in that secondary, like Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, that are practicing and might play this week. So that could hinder Robinson or any of these secondary guys. So, but just a thought. Potentially, you could play them, but as like a flex option, or if you're in a 2-flex league. Bucs side of things, we're looking at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, 2 absolute starts in this matchup. I know Jalen Ramsey can be an issue for Mike Evans, but these are 2 guys I definitely want to play because the Bucs just can't run the ball. They're not going to be able to run the ball here, so the passing volume will be immense in this game. Titans-Chiefs, Sunday night. The Chiefs are like 12.5-point favorites. The books are expecting this team to absolutely roll over the Titans. Not really surprising. The Titans can't throw the ball. Like if they're in a trailing game script, it's not good for them. They have I think they have the worst pass blocking grade in the NFL. So the Titans are a matchup for the Chiefs where they should be able to kind of take care of business. Both of these teams, 29th for the Titans and 30th for the Chiefs in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. That doesn't mean I want to start any of the Titans wide receivers. Like I guess I would see Robert Woods as like if you are looking to just find, you have nothing, you have absolutely nothing, bye weeks are killing you. Like I could see maybe trying to start Robert Woods, but with Tannehill's status, if anything happens where Malik Willis were to play, I wouldn't want to touch any wide receiver. So I think this will be, from that side, like a Dontrell Hilliard would be potential matchup because the Chiefs are giving up a ton of receptions to running backs. So I haven't seen a line out for Hilliard, but I will be betting that on Sunday night, like an over of like 1.5, 2.5 receptions, or maybe like 16, 17 yards is what I'd probably expect it to be at. I'd definitely be looking to take that over with Hilliard because he's the third down guy, and the Chiefs are definitely allowing a lot of receptions to opposing running backs. On the Chiefs side of things, I expect them to take care of this game pretty early, but Juju Smith-Schuster is someone that's establishing himself in the offense, and I do want to play. What is Kadarius Toney's impact? I don't think it's anything this week, so I wouldn't be looking to play a Marquez Valdez-Scantling in this matchup. Mecole Hardman looks to be the 2 right now. I think like that's how I'm starting to feel. He just has been given a lot of opportunities to work after the catch and has been really quite good, but I wouldn't look to play either one of these 2 guys. You know what? I think I could play Mecole Hardman, but I just think the Chiefs handle this game pretty quickly and easily, and I think the 2 guys that do that are Kelsey and Juju, and then they probably have to end up sitting on the run game a little bit. But the Titans are very good against the run, so maybe they won't be able to do that. Last game up, Monday night, Ravens-Saints. 2 teams, Ravens 27th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, Saints 25th. So good matchups, but the problem is we've got no Rashad Bateman. We've got Mark Andrews' status up in the air. So what do we do with the Ravens receivers? I think Devin Duvernay is someone I would want to play in the case that obviously Rashad Bateman's not back this year. He's out with foot surgery. So Devin Duvernay, in my mind, is now the wide receiver 1 in this offense. So in a matchup against the Saints, I think he's a good flex play against this Saints team. And then the Saints side of things, it looks like I don't know. I don't think Jarvis Landry is going to be available. Obviously, we know Michael Thomas is certainly out. If we look at practice from the Saints, we've got Jarvis Landry with a limited participation, so maybe he plays. If he does play, you could play him, but you're obviously, I would lean against doing that because you're going to have to wait all the way until Monday, and I wouldn't take that risk. Chris Olave is a weekly start, and this is a great matchup for him, so I would definitely be looking to play Chris Olave here. All right, that's all the matchups for Week 9 in the NFL. If you guys are new to the channel, or if you haven't come out on Sunday already, 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, we're previewing the entire NFL slate, our bets, our picks, DFS on OwnersBox, and as well any last-minute start-sit decisions you have to make. So that link will be in the description. Come join us on Twitch, OwnersBox Sports on Twitch. And of course, go check out our friends and sponsor the show over at BetFred. The Sunday Boost will be up there. So that link is down below in the description as well. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.